3, 2.
Could it be hard times to strain my mind with situations that created complications in my life, like my father's past decisions and drug addictions, or my mother's death? I love your mom. What's next?
Yo,
We back.
Welcome to Defy the Odds podcast. So we're just going to wing today's because we were going to have a guest. I was going to invite actually Shane from next door, the gym owner. Yeah, just to do like a health benefit and workout benefit. He's super knowledgeable, but he had some stuff that he had to take care of, so that didn't work out. So we're just going to wing it today. I figured, you know what we could do? I could tell a little bit more of my story.
Love to hear it.
And kind of just do that. So I guess let's talk about weekly intentions first.
First things first, as always.
First things first, I finished the book. So I did read every day. I actually finished the book this morning before I came into the office.
Oh, so you didn't come into the office until you finished it?
No, I mean, it was just, that was the perfect timing. It was just like I read a little every day. And
stars aligned.
Yeah, and it worked out. Another note for those of you that are listening, Akil made it to the gym at least one day.
I was in there with him. I seen him.
That was yesterday, right?
I seen him do it.
I don't know if he made it today.
I wasn't in the gym.
I'm not going to hold my breath, but he did make it down there. I noticed that he commented on the YouTube video.
I've seen that as well.
He didn't want to be called out. So I guess we just got to keep calling motherfuckers out every week. On that note, look on your phone, did Vic post?
I did not see Vic post. At least stories, he might have posted one thing because his lucky ass went to the Phoenix Suns
Game
2 in the playoffs.
That's
he had
cool.
a suite. Obviously, you know, he does a lot of work in customs with them.
Yeah.
So they actually invited him out to be in the suite with him and his lady. So
Oh.
I thought that was pretty dope.
Thanks for the invite, Vic.
I told him the same thing this morning. I said, next time
thanks
you
a lot.
can't come, I'll be your girlfriend.
Yeah.
I said, I'll be your plus one.
Thanks a lot, man.
But yeah, I'll go
See
check
how
his
you-
Instagram right now because that was actually Vic's intention last
Yeah.
week to just be more active on social media, you know,
Yeah.
comment to his peers.
I need to do
Man.
the same thing because I'm so terrible at it, and that would be a very stretch of, you know, being uncomfortable because I just don't like creating content. This is fine for me, but holding a camera like this and like
I mean, the thing about Vic, what he was saying is he doesn't need to do much.
No,
the
he's got
content
the
is
content.
there. Yeah,
Just
the
fucking
content
post.
he just
Yeah.
has to post it, come up with a caption, and essentially respond to people, you know.
Chat GPT.
There you go. Hey, but I am looking at his Instagram right now.
Okay.
And I do not see any new post. So
Okay.
we might need to hold him accountable tomorrow.
I think so. All you guys out there, all 45. Actually, no, we got 1,300 views on this.
Oh, the video, yeah.
For the video. Yeah, that's good. Hopefully
Do you
guys
think
liked
that
it.
was because Vic was on it with us and
I
they
think
just
there's
want to hear
li-
Vic's
there's,
story?
There's
or you think-
probably a little bit of that, but I mean, it's not like we got 50,000. It's not like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. It's not a custom.
If he had that much pull, then, you know, we would have got a lot more listens.
Hey, next time he's on, we'll have him do a live custom on the podcast.
Ooh,
Probably not.
that sounds good. Well, we are starting that custom class. So Reshoevn8r and Vic will be launching a custom class at our facility here starting in late June. So if you guys are interested in doing a custom sneaker class with us, you know, we'll
I mean,
we'll
you
be
got to talk
posting
more
that
about this because I know some stuff, but I don't think I know enough, and I work here. So, like, do they bring their own shoe in?
This is we're going to start off with the basic paint custom class, and then we're going to get into decon, recon, and we'll invite some special instructors out to come work with us. We're starting to work on it now, so it'll be a pretty cool experience, I think.
So is this something Reshoevn8r is still building out, or do you guys
Yes.
pretty much
No,
have
no,
everything?
We're
game
just
planned?
starting it out. Yeah, all we have is the space.
The space, the little creative space.
Yeah.
So pretty much, I bring in my own shoe, or are we gonna have shoes for them to purchase in many worlds?
Next door, so
They
we
buy
do,
the shoe?
You can buy the shoe or bring your shoe in.
like an all white Air Force One,
Yeah.
probably a basic model.
Yeah.
They buy it there, and then they come next door. And then are they paying hourly? Or are they paying for like?
It's the class.
Is it like a class, like a college class, where you're paying for 8 weeks, and Vic is like your instructor for
No.
8 weeks? Every Tuesday you have these classes, or is it just a one bang?
So it'll
done?
be one like a art. You know, when you go to paint, like a
wine and sip.
wine and sip class. So similar to that is how we're going to start it. But once we build out the space and have all the equipment, we might sell actually memberships for people that want to use the equipment, and they can come in, and instead of having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on the equipment, we can supply that. They can pay us a monthly rental fee or something. So
sounds dope.
I think it'll be cool.
I think just being able, even if it was like if you paid for like a semester, and Vic was, that's what I was thinking that when you were talking about, like, is it like a college class where I go and every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., Vic is teaching me different things every week. And then at the end of your semester, you have like a full project?
Well, here's the thing is we're not even exactly sure what it's going to become. We just we've been talking about it for 3 years, like maybe longer.
Yeah.
And we just haven't done it. So we're just going to start, and then it will evolve as it evolves.
Really. Hey, it sounds like a great idea. I'm sure there's something like that similar, but
there's other people
with Reshoevn8r backing and Vic as an instructor, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to do something like that.
I think it'll be cool. And if you want to build a sneaker and do some cool shit, we'll be here. If you're in town in Phoenix for one reason or another and you're looking for something to do, we'll be able to do that. But back to intentions. What about you?
What was my intention?
You were gonna log into the NACA website.
I logged in.
Okay, and schedule a meeting.
So before I could schedule a meeting, I had to submit. Well, first, I know one of my intentions I want to work on someday is reading. I didn't read a book, but I read a lot of fucking pages. It probably took me 15 minutes, 20 minutes to read through every little line. Obviously, just buying a house is very important, and I don't want to just sign up for a program and selling my soul or some shit, and I don't know what I'm signing. So I literally read line by line. So I probably read just
a whole
as much
15 minutes.
Maybe like 25.
That's no, come on, man.
All right, well, I read, but yeah, so I had to read all this stuff. I had to pretty much go through bank statements, credit card statements, contact credit card companies to get certain information. I had a lot of information that I had to upload, but clap it up because I submitted all my documents.
Okay.
And I scheduled my appointment.
Okay, good. We'll call that a win.
Call that a win. Definitely completed my intention. So, yeah, next Tuesday, it's actually my first time meeting the guy. He's going to pretty much break down the whole program. I would imagine break down maybe like my game plan, what it's going to be, my timeline of what it's looking like to buy a house, maybe a savings plan, budgeting. I'm not really sure exactly what they're going to go over, but
do you feel why do you feel like it's so important to buy a house right now?
I mean, it's not. This isn't the right economy, and I understand that.
Well, just in general, is it because you feel like that is the right thing to do, and you're an adult when you buy a house? Like what is the purpose behind buying the house?
I think it's just basically I'm spending $1,400 wasting it every month on my rent that I could be putting towards something that I own, a bigger space, a house, somewhere when I could go home I can be actually proud of. I can turn my house into a home. With an apartment, you can't really do that. I don't know. I just always wanted a home. It's kind of just part of being an American dream, being a homeowner. I don't need the white picket fence and a golden retriever, but you know what I'm saying? I definitely just want a house, a nice little house. Yeah, it just always been a goal of mine, seeing my sister have a house. My brother's a homeowner, and, I'm the youngest child, so I just, I just want to have a house, man. I don't know. It's just something I've always wanted.
I'm just curious. Yeah. Because a lot of people, they feel like it's just part of growing up and the next step when, like right now, it's not as important as it used to be back in the day. You know what I mean? Like the cost of home ownership is just so expensive. And once you buy a house, then you're responsible to maintain it. So
for sure. I mean, there's definitely challenges and tribulations and all that stuff you have to go through. But
put it this way, I just put a new AC on my house. It costs $7,000. So, you got to get ready for those types.
I'll get the insurance.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'll get the insurance, a little care package for all the appliances. Yeah, that is the thing. Like, just the generation I grew up in, my father didn't teach me, how to do some of this day-to-day handy stuff.
You had a father?
I do.
Okay. He's around?
I mean, I'm not close to him, but, until I was like 11, 12 years old, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah, I'll get it. I think today, since we don't have a guest, I can actually get into my story a little bit more from, growing up, being born in Tucson. and we can kind of get into that, and then, we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So before that, though, my intentions, again, I still have not drank. I finished the book.
So talk to us about this book. Before, on a prior episode, you said the book was called Purple Cow. So for people who didn't listen to that episode, maybe talk to our audience on what that book was about and how you plan on applying it to your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just about being remarkable and doing things that other people are not doing to set yourself apart from them. So really just looking at it through a lens of, and I told you the story, if you see one purple cow in a field of brown cows, you're going to say something and talk about that brown or that purple cow and notice it. It's a similar concept as how can you stand out from the crowd and do something different, really, and just be remarkable with things that you do. So it's pretty interesting. Again, I'm going to read it a couple more times just so I can really absorb what it's trying to say. But it just makes you try to think a little bit bigger, really.
Well, having this creative space and having custom classes taught by Vic, that is definitely the purple cow in the industry.
No, I mean, there's a lot of people doing it. So it's not really, I wouldn't say that, but I think for Phoenix, it's a purple cow.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's other people doing it in other places, Vegas, LA, obviously Shoe Surgeon's have been doing it for a long time.
He has the classes for sure.
There's actually quite a few now, but nobody's doing it in Phoenix, so it'll be Phoenix's purple cow.
I like it. Have you thought of any other examples on how you can apply that method to Reshoevn8r?
Not necessarily. I think they'll just come as it's training your brain to really just think bigger. And the other thing the book talks about is you can't please everybody. So it's okay if people aren't into it, they're not into it. So it's interesting. And today, going into something else, I went with my EO Forum guys to this company here in Phoenix, and it's so crazy because there's businesses in your area that you aren't even aware of. This business we went to, guess how much revenue they do in 1 year?
Well, tell me about the business so I can guess.
So it's an electronics business.
Oh.
And what they do is they basically wholesale electronic parts. They have, I think they said 1.2 million different parts that they sell and that they hold.
500 million.
More
than 500 million?
Yeah.
A billion?
Close
to a billion?
Yeah, almost. I think it was almost $900 million last year.
Anything in like the electronics fields and parts, like the pieces for your iPhone, all that stuff, like that stuff's expensive.
It's interesting because he showed his growth curve, and it was a great experience because they talked about building culture in the business and some of the things they're doing for the employees. Now, obviously, when you're doing $900 million a year, you can afford certain things. But it was still a pretty cool experience. And just knowing that there's a business that does almost $1 billion a year with 600 employees, like it's 10 minutes from this office. And he was nice enough to bring us in, kind of go over the story. His dad is the one that started it. He was an immigrant. Obviously, immigrants, they come from a different country with no opportunity. They work hard, man. So just they built this business from nothing into, and really when they really took off was 2020, COVID, because all the shortage, and they just crazy growth. It was pretty cool.
Did you pitch the podcast to him?
No. But,
sounds like we got to get him on an episode.
Well, yeah, we got to do a few more, but yeah,
for sure,
we'll put it on the list of possible candidates. Yeah, he was a super cool dude. So really, I guess getting into my story, I was born in Tucson, Arizona. For those of you that don't know, it's about an hour and a half outside of Phoenix. Born, my mom was from California. My dad was from Indianapolis, Indiana. My mom had me when she was about 32, and I think my dad was 30.
So a fairly late couple compared to most people, I would say.
Yeah, I would say I was a little later for them. And then, my dad stuck around till I was about 3, and he ran off with the Maharaji.
Don't know what that is.
Nuts. Honestly, I've done a little research. My mom used to call it a cult, but it's you know, whatever. But he basically was done and bounced, right? So my mom really raised me as a single parent. And
only child?
Only child. So I do have a half sister that's from my dad's side, but I've never lived with her. I haven't even really talked to her in a while. But he left when I was 3, and really I just grew up without any male role model. As I said, my mom never had another husband. She never had a live-in boyfriend. She said she dated guys, but she didn't. Nobody ever lived in our house ever. And, you know, really, I think I was a pretty decent kid. I started getting into a little bit of trouble, you know, 6th grade, 7th grade, junior high.
Was getting in trouble like just not talking in school, talking back to teachers, or were you like
very, very mild
on the streets?
No, very, very mild. My mom was not. She was very overprotective. It's just, you know, you're a kid. I think I have a mild form of dyslexia too, so I was having a little trouble learning. So 8th grade, my mom put me in private school, and because I was failing in 8th grade. I started failing in 7th. They almost held me back. I went into 8th grade, and she took me to private school. And I may have done it only for half a year or the full year, and that was an absolute shit show joke. So you pay to go to private school, and the kids ran that school. Like, kids did not get in trouble. It was like totally a different experience from a school point of view.
So did you get in more trouble because of that?
I didn't get in more trouble. Again, I wasn't a bad kid. I just was a little, you know, ornery. I don't know. I was just, you know, I didn't have a father. I don't know. I was just kind of rebelling a little bit, probably.
For sure, yeah.
So going to high school, you know, I wasn't an over-popular kid. I was just the average kid. I hung out with, like, everybody. So I had, you know, back then gangs were really prevalent. So I had, like, you know, friends in this gang, friends in this gang, friends over here. I was just very neutral, I would say. Grew up, you know, going to school, going to high school, and really just didn't get good grades. I was failing, like, you know, at least one class. Most of the time.
Did you fail PE?
No, but I don't even know if PE was a thing in high school when I got there. I mean, computers were barely getting. I remember the first computer in a class. I was in 9th grade, and it was, I think, my English class. I think it's the first time I ever saw a computer. Mm-hmm. So it's totally different now. And then, you know, shortly after that, my mom basically used to threaten me anytime I'd get in trouble or, you know, talk back or whatever. Hey, I'm gonna have your dad come take care of you. He needs to teach you to be a man. Blah blah blah. And I'd always like freak out. And finally, she said this time when I turned 15, so I was 15 in my sophomore year, I guess. Yeah, sophomore year. She's like, your dad's going to come take care of you. And I think on my 15th birthday is when he arrived. Keep in mind, I didn't even talk to my dad much.
That was going to be my question. Prior to you being 15, what was your relationship like?
Basically non-existent. He may call me on my birthday, may not.
Yeah.
I think I saw him 2 times from the time I was 3 until I was 15 when he came to take care of me. So I think I went to visit his family actually in South Carolina. His dad had money, so he left him some money. And then I have an aunt that lives in Atlanta, and I think we went to meet. And then one other time he came, maybe when I was 12, helped me build he was in the woodwork space. He used to own a company called Fine Woodworks in Miami, Florida, and he helped me build a launch ramp when I used to skate. So I was probably 12 when I saw him at that point.
Yeah, that's pretty dope though.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, you know. And when you don't have somebody around, you don't really know. It's like. It was normal to me, but like my friend, one of my best friends growing up, Justin, that lived next door, his dad was always around. So I would do things with them, but I never even really thought about it, to be honest with you, now that I'm thinking about. I'm sure that it affected me in some way, but so he comes to move, buys the house that I was raised in. So I don't even have to move. I just stay in my room.
It's pretty interesting.
It's an interesting transition. Yeah, it's honestly, I would probably rather moved somewhere else just to break it up.
Like even to a different state, you would have been.
Well, I mean, I don't. Maybe not a different. I mean, I would have done that too. I would have had no choice, but just a different house, a different atmosphere, whatever. But I mean, it is what it is, and again, it makes me who I am today. And as I mentioned, I went from an overprotective mom, where are you going? What are you doing? Who are you with? What's their name? Let me talk to their parents, blah, 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 to my dad just not coming home and not being around and not giving one shit. So I dropped out of school very, very quickly. My mom used to take me to school. When I moved in with him, he's like, walk. And I'm like, I was like, I was at the cutoff. I was like a little over a mile away. So they didn't have buses that ran to my house because I was just close enough to where they're like, you're going to have to walk. Yeah. But 6:30 in the morning when no one's forcing you to go, I'm like, fuck, I ain't going.
Yeah.
So pretty quickly just stopped going to school. I started hanging out. Like once I moved in with my dad, I probably went for 6 months, started hanging out with people that I never would have been able to hang out with before. Not that that's a good thing, but, just started hanging out with more troublemakers probably.
Was this like freshman, sophomore, junior?
So this is like sophomore year. So I remember when my dad first came to live and take care of me, my mom like left town. She left her car there and her key was there and my dad just wasn't coming home, right? So I'm 15 and I'm like, I'm going to fucking take this car. So I'm sure he came home or he noticed because I drove it all weekend. Like I basically was gone till 4 a.m. with my mom's car.
Was this your first time driving or have you drove it before?
Well, my mom let me drive when I was younger. So she taught me how to drive a stick shift and this car wasn't a stick shift, but I knew how to drive.
Okay.
Not that I've ever been on streets and like responsibly driven, but I knew how to drive. So I basically stole the car, and I think he knew because when we went to pick her up from the airport, he's like, "Let's take your mom's car."
Did he ask you to drive?
Well, no, he didn't. But she wrote down the miles, I think, because she mentioned something later about the mileage on the car, and I think he was just covering up for me. I don't know. Who knows? Or it's just the biggest fucking coincidence ever. So that was my first time like stealing borrowing a car when I wasn't supposed to. And I was hanging out with some kids down there. We were going to parties at night. It was just, it was like my first experience doing shit like that. And then really, my dad got really addicted to drugs. So
was he kind of always a drug addict, or you think just being in Tucson got him to that lifestyle?
He was probably always doing drugs. Yeah. Always smoked weed. I know he got arrested in Miami, Florida for, I guess, busted on the being arrested for being on cocaine or something, because he said that he got pulled over and there was a little cocaine residue on his license, or I don't know. I don't remember what he told me, but I think he's always done it. He was in Vietnam. I mean, he basically said Vietnam was one of the best times of his life. So that's the type of guy my dad.
Well, that was also like Vietnam was heavy into like heroin.
Oh yeah,
and like all
my
dad's
whole
done army. Like if you've seen that American Gangster.
My dad did every drug there is for sure.
I believe it.
Yeah. So. Really, that was a new experience for me too. It's because I'd never kind of really been around that. My mom smoked weed her whole life, and I used to hate it. I remember I had a buddy come over one time, stay in the night, and he's like, "What's that smell?" And we used to have a little guest house in the back that we'd rent out, and I knew it was her taking a bath, smoking weed. So I'm like, "Go outside and see if it's him." And I laid under I said, "Mom, what are you doing? Put that out." You know what I mean? Under the bathroom door.
How old were you at this time?
I was probably 12.
Oh, 12. Okay.
Yeah. But I didn't want my friend's mom, they're going to go home and tell their mom. Mm-hmm. So, but their parents probably smoked weed because he knew what it smelled like. So who knows? But so I'm around all these drug addicts and my dad started selling cocaine and, I mean, man, there's so many situations. I remember my dad getting arrested for trafficking marijuana to New York. I mean, that was a little later, but I mean, my dad was heavy into a bunch of different shit. And that's how I really started selling weed is, there was a guy that used to live at our house and he used to have a bunch of weed. They used to have like a brick of weed in there and I'd just go grab some and sell it to my friends for
Little
free.
nuggies.
Yeah, and I think I probably took too much after a certain point in time, so they questioned me on that. But very accelerated growth. I dropped out of high school, and all the kids from high school used to come to not all the kids, but a bunch of kids used to come to my house for lunch, just to hang out. It was like the spot. I had a couple other kids that had bad home experiences that moved in with me at like 16 years old. I had a job really on my 16th birthday, I went and got a job.
What were you doing?
My first job was at a grocery store, bagging, watering, like produce, sweeping, mopping. And I think I made like $4 an hour or $4.20 an hour back then. I mean, it was not much money, but I was one of my only friends that I hung out with that actually worked. So I had money in my pocket. And around that time, I must have been 16. My dad says, "Hey, I'm going to go visit your sister in Aspen. Here's $40. I'll be back in 4 days." He didn't come home for 2.5 months.
Oh, wow. You said 16?
16, yeah. So luckily I'm working. I'm making money. But that is when those two buddies of mine that had home lives, they kind of moved in because there was nobody there. Like, we were having fucking party. Like, it was...
Was he reaching out to you during this 2 months, or was he missing?
I didn't talk to him one time. Couldn't find him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Were you like reaching out to him, trying to get a hold of him, or asking family members?
This is before cell phones, so there's no...
The pager?
I don't even think there may have been pagers in, but...
Put a quarter in the little payphone?
I was waiting for him to call. I think I talked to him once. And meanwhile, my mom is away, and now... I don't know if I even told her because I didn't want to worry, but like I didn't talk to my mom a ton during that time. So yeah, just that's the type of shit that I went from really being super overprotected to as free as you want to be, right? My dad used to go get us 40s and roll us joints, and like all my friends thought he was the coolest dude. I was like kind of embarrassed by it, but it is what it is. So he comes back, and then shortly after that, actually, we went on a cool trip to the Grand Canyon. So we did a rafting trip. One of his buddies that he used to do drugs with, they wanted to get cleaned up, and they didn't want to go to, some sort of rehab or anything. Yeah. So the guy, John Markey, I remember his name, he used to row boats down the Grand Canyon on those rafting trips. So I guess on one of those trips he used to do, he saved somebody, pulled them out of the water because their boat flipped over. So he contacted them, and we went on this 19-day excursion down the Grand Canyon.
Hey, that sounds pretty intense.
It was one of the best experiences of my life for sure.
Like just being with your dad, or just being able to
No, my dad's a dick. My dad didn't even barely ride on the boat with me. He rode on the boat with John. That was they basically were taking all the shit out. Like the actual shit, because you don't shit and leave the shit there, like the waste. Mm-hmm. And they had the beer. So my dad was fucking drinking beers on the boat.
How big were these boats?
So there's the dory that we rode in, which is a wooden boat. It's not big. It's like 6 people. And then there's the rafts, like the whitewater rafts.
Tubes.
Yeah, so that's what my dad was on with John. And, I think they got somewhat clean. I mean, after the beer ran out,
besides the
beer did run out.
They pissed out all the drugs.
19 days, I'm sure. I'm sure he drank quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
But it was really one of the coolest experiences. I mean, I did get to hang out with him after we stopped and we camped, and we slept in the same tent and shit. That's how I actually learned how to roll joints really, really well, because you can't take cigarette butts down there. So I rolled all my dad's cigarettes. It would give me something to do. And I got really fucking good at it. Just rolling multiple cigarettes every day for 19 days. So that was a cool experience. And then really, I just grew up not really knowing what I wanted to do. Luckily, my grandfather had
on your dad's side.
Yeah, had left me a little money, but I had to graduate high school or get my GED equivalent. So I got my GED, thankfully. So I got a little bit of money, Disney stock back in the day that I went through very, very fast.
Imagine if you would have held that till right now. You think it would be
who knows?
through the walls?
I mean, I don't even know. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
Because I actually went to community college after that because he was smart, and I'll probably do something similar with my daughter. Is I only got more if I went to school, so I kind of
college funding.
Yeah, I took the most basic shitty classes and just really milked it for like a couple years just to get a little bit more, and then I was just totally over it. I just couldn't even do that to get the rest.
Did you get an associate's at this time, or you?
No, I didn't. Fuck no, I didn't. No,
you were just
school was not. School was not for me, man. I was okay while I was there, but doing stuff after, I was just, my mental capacity, I was just not in a place that was a priority to me. And then at 19, he knew some dude that was losing a house, so we bought that house. So I actually moved out into my own house when I was about 19 because some crackhead that he was friends.
Out in Tucson as well?
Yeah, in Tucson. And that's really when I started, selling drugs and selling weed on a larger scale, I would say. So I've been, I shouldn't say I've been selling weed, but I, started selling weed at 15 till I was like 32, a long time. That's really what I did.
Yeah.
And I worked occasional jobs. I've went from first job at the grocery store. Then I went to Target. I was at Target for a while. Then I delivered furniture. And, I've had, random jobs over the years, all realizing what I didn't want to do.
Well, question for you, just kind of circling back to, obviously you said you've been selling weed for a very long time. Years later, the pioneer of the marijuana industry. Was that ever something you wanted to, like, you obviously knew it. You've done it for so long. Now you're a business owner. You got clean money. You never wanted to, like, invest back into that
Yeah, I mean, there's,
industry?
Of course, but back in the day, it was nobody knew, like, when it was first becoming legal, nobody really knew how to do it, and I wasn't smart enough to figure it out. Like, you really have to know your shit. And I didn't have any money back then, or else I probably would have. I have an opportunity right now that I may take up that would.
You don't think it's a little too late, like the industry's already taken off?
No, I mean, there's lots of opportunity out there still. And I guess if you're a convicted felon for a marijuana charge, you get certain privileges if you own a marijuana type business now, if you're involved in the industry.
That's wild. You would think they would, like, ban you from like even being.
It's the opposite. They like waive fees and they like prioritize you a little bit. I don't know enough about it. Somebody told me and I was like, I'm like, really? That's
like a crazy ass loophole.
Okay, well then you should pay me to be part of this. So really just doing that over the years, and I remember just being totally lost, to be honest with you. Like, coming after that, again, my mom committed suicide. So I'm go through this, start selling weed and, getting into some trouble, whatever. Still had never been arrested in my life though. And then my mom committed suicide when I was.
At what age was this again? I know you brought it up.
I think I'd have to look back and look at some information, but I think I was about 17, almost 18.
All right. Well, question prior to the suicide. Obviously, you said 15 years old. Your mom dropped. Your dad pretty much came over. At any point in that time, did you feel any resentment towards your mom? Like, felt like she abandoned you and just put you off on your dad?
Not really. I don't think so. I knew that she was struggling with her own thing, and I mean, she had dedicated her life. She just didn't know how to move forward, I guess. Again, and I wasn't a bad kid, but I was, I talked back, and I didn't have a male influence that could, put me in check.
For sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't feel like I had any resentment. I was just so free to do whatever I want, that it was just like a new chapter in my life, really. So I didn't even think about that much. And I think I only saw her. She did move back to Tucson once during that time. It may even have been when my dad was gone for 2.5 months. I don't remember exactly. And then she left. And then on the way back from that trip that we took down the Grand Canyon, we actually stopped at her house. And that's when my dad, they're up drinking, having a conversation. I'm sleeping. And I guess he told her that he was smoking crack cocaine. Like, why would you say that to her, right?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a pleasant conversation.
Crazy. But that's the thing about my dad too, is he wasn't a great father, but he was a cool guy. Like he could make fun out of anything. He had a pretty bad struggle too. So after I was 19, living in the house, he actually got throat cancer. So he came to live with me on the couch, and he lost a bunch of weight. And at this point, I think I got really depressed. I went from weighing like 220 pounds to like 150. I didn't eat. I couldn't eat. Nothing sounded good. Because I thought that I was going to lose my father too, which even though I wasn't super tight with him, that's, I'm fucking 19 years old.
No, yeah, for sure.
So
it's definitely a tough situation.
Yeah. So basically, at that point, I think I was bussing tables or something. So I was also in addition to not eating, I was smoking weed and I was working. I was like walking all day long. So I lost a ton of weight. People thought I was sick and, had AIDS and
AIDS. Goddamn.
I mean, I went from 220 to 150.
Oh, yeah,
I looked dramatic. And I'm not a 150.
I went from 150 to 220, so I understand.
Yeah, I'm not a 150 frame, right?
For sure,
I was pretty thin. So that was an interesting part of my life too. I'm in my own house. I'm doing whatever I want. My dad's got cancer. He loses his teeth. He, is addicted to drugs. He's got friends coming by. I remember he was on probation at that point too, and he was staying at my house during Thanksgiving. And we had a beer, and his fucking probation officer came over on Thanksgiving and basically arrested him at my house.
For a beer?
Yeah. That's
Damn.
how, on Thanksgiving, it's crazy, but he probably shouldn't have had that fucking beer.
Yeah.
So, my dad was basically on probation for, I think, 5 years when he got arrested. I don't even know, man. My dad's been arrested quite a few times. So, really, after that, I kind of just did my thing. And I'm probably 20 years old. We used to go out and party every night. I'm hanging with the wrong people. And
so Akil.
Well, Akil wasn't the bad influence.
But it's about around the time frame when you met Akil.
That's about the time that I met Akil. Yeah. I had a couple roommates to help pay the mortgage, and really my life was about where am I going to go? Let's party, right? Like I was basically just a party animal. And I would make enough money to live and party, really. That's all I did for quite a few years, honestly, probably almost till I was 30. So from 20 to 30 is kind of a blur, which I don't approve of, right? Drinking is not a good, it's not a good habit to have, because number one, you just lose your life, right?
And a lot of money.
A lot of money. Yeah, just in drugs in general just aren't, it's not the move, right? I just think that I was just in a place that I didn't know what to do. I don't know. Nobody guiding me. I had nobody really to look up to or to guide me in the right direction. This is before social media. Now people have social media. They know you can go follow somebody that's successful and you have somebody to mimic. Back then in Tucson, there was nobody like I had no family there. All my family was in other states if I had it, and I wasn't that tight with them either. So I was really just solo. All my time, like on Thanksgiving or Christmas, I did it at my buddy's parents' house or whatever. So I always got invited to Thanksgiving dinner and shit. So really, I kind of wasted 10 years of my life doing that, from 20 to 30, just drinking, partying, doing whatever it was, selling weed. My dad, ended up getting arrested a couple more times. And then, I had some really close calls, getting arrested. I remember one time a cop came to my house, and I had actually moved out of that house that I was in, and I was fixing it up to sell it. And a cop pulls up, or this guy pulls up, and he's totally undercover, looked just like me or you, tattoos, everything. And he basically told me to come here. I was like in the yard cleaning or something. And he's like, hey, I know all about you, your boy, blank, this, that, and the other. And, you know, basically telling me he's watching, whatever. And by the way he pronounced my buddy's name, I knew he didn't know much, because that's not how you say his name. So if you really know, like, if you really knew, you would have pronounced his name correctly.
Yeah.
Right. So I ended up calling him, and this is when I was sitting on the stash house, and there was 500 pounds up at my house. So I'm like, we got to move this shit. I need to meet you. Basically, I met him. We discussed it. We got all that shit out of there, because he actually said, I know about the house up on Painted Hills where you're staying. So,
and now you said that was the stash house?
That's where all the shit was. Yeah. So we had to go get that shit out of there, like, immediately. So we did that. Nothing ever happened to that. But there's been so many close calls. So I'm doing shit like this for the next 10 years. Another situation.
500 pounds. How much money is that making you? It's off the topic. I'm just curious.
Man, I wasn't the main guy in that. So, yeah. I mean, that's nothing for Tucson, bro. I mean, 500 pounds.
It's a border, kind of like a border town.
It's a border town.
Everything's coming through.
Yeah. So just being in the network I was in, it was just, I knew a lot of people doing that stuff. So, and that was just one situation. Another situation, you know, as during this 10-year plan, I used to drive loads myself to, you know, Michigan and different places, and I've cowboyed it, right? Like, bales behind the back seat, driving, cops next to you, like, crazy.
Hands on the wheel.
Crazy. I'm so lucky that I never got in any trouble doing that, because it would have been bad news.
You did, though, right? Years later?
Yeah, well, but I'm saying during that period of time, because I was younger and just dumber, right? So another time during that 10-year stint, I'm driving Shadow. My buddy's got probably another 500 or 600 pounds in a U-Haul. My dumbass, he wanted to buy my Jeep. So I had a Jeep Wrangler, and he wanted to tow it so it looked like a college kid going, you know, driving. College, yeah. So the Jeep's in my name. It's attached to this U-Haul driving through Michigan, and there's a cop in the median. Cop sees them, drives by, and I'm driving Shadow probably, you know, half a mile behind or whatever. And
so what was your job? Cop pulls over, you act reckless, so he gets you instead of him?
So he comes after me. Yeah. So looks at them, looks at me as I pass, pulls out, drives up next to me, looks at me, drives up next to them, looks at them in the driver's seat, gets between us, and turns on his lights. And I'm like, fuck, what are we going to do, right? So luckily there was an off-ramp right when he did that, and he's got his hand out the window pointing like this. They get off the off-ramp, and I'm like, I'm not going that way. I go straight, and he comes after me. So they get away.
Oh, so he was after you the whole time?
No, he wasn't. But since I didn't go where he wanted me to go, he, instead of following them, he came after me probably to see why aren't they following, right? So he's in the middle, and I go straight. He comes, follows me. He lets them go. They get away somehow. I don't know how they got away, because I'm sure he called people and they were looking for him. They made it to their destination, bro. Luckily, I didn't have a valid driver's license, so I think that's why it tied me up for a while, because he couldn't just write me a ticket and send me on my way. I had like a couple Mexican dudes with me, and it was pretty hairy experience. So he got tied up with us for probably 2 hours, and then he had to let us go. And it's funny because at that time, I think I was making music, and I had a card because I started my record label.
What's the name of the record label?
I don't even remember, dude. And he said, yeah, all you guys have that. All you guys do that. I'm like, okay, that's not a good cover, I guess. Yeah, stupid. Just stupid stuff. And I wasn't even making that much money. You know, I was just somebody helping, you know. So lots of stories and experiences in between that time frame. And just being lost, really not knowing what to do. I was a hard worker, but I also didn't like working for people. So, you know, I did random jobs and did different things. And then, you know, my dad ended up passing away, I think when I was 32.
At this time, how was your relationship? Was it still rocky? Or were
it was definitely better. I mean, he got arrested again. He was actually going on trial. He got arrested in Memphis. I think in Memphis. There's probably a mugshot of him. But during that time, he also got cancer. So I missed a step. During that time, my father, we were going to Costa Rica to visit my tattoo artist. So I don't know how old I was. I must have been probably 29 or 30. And he had this big sore on the side of his face that like was an open gash. So when my dad kind of got cleaned is he bought property in Marana, and he just lived basically in a tent for a number of years, camping, like just out in the wilderness. That's the type of dude my dad was. Right. He ended up getting a trailer and getting set up out there. But before all that, he was just in the sun all the time. He didn't wear sunscreen, I guess. So he got really bad skin cancer. And
so you said he had throat cancer, then skin cancer?
Then skin cancer and bad. He let it go. He neglected it for so long that he had this huge gash that it actually smelled. And when we went to Costa Rica to visit my tattoo artist, he had this healing ceremony done. And when we came back, he actually went to the VA. They cut his ear off and took a skin graft from the back of his leg and basically put like he called it his head titty. It looked like a fake boob kind of on the side of his face. And that's the type
like
of
a boil or something?
No, it's just a skin graft. So just I got a picture of him in my office that I can show you. But basically picture no ear here and just like a round skin, like a ball almost of skin. Crazy. And I went to visit him at the hospital in California right after he had it done, and he's cracking jokes. And I'm looking at him like, fuck, man, how can you crack jokes? So I learned something from him about just not taking things too seriously. Like, regardless of the situation, try to make light of it and do the best you can, because otherwise you're going to be miserable. You do have that brain power to overcome that mental thing if you have a strong enough mind, right? Like you can take a situation negatively, or you can try to take it positively, and it could be the same situation, right? So I did learn that from him. But my dad he'd been through some shit, and then not a few years later he had a stroke, and my dad's girlfriend called me, hey, he's at the hospital. So I went and visit him, and he ended up dying like a week later. So and shortly after that, I think it was the same year, is when I got arrested. So, and he basically, I went to California and picked up a bunch of kind bud and good weed, and was driving it back and was dropping some stuff off at this dude that I knew up here. And he had sold to an undercover cop probably who knows how long before, and they kept asking him for more. And his dumbass is like, oh yeah, he's coming to see me today. So they were watching the house that he was in. Yeah. He didn't overtly snitch on me. He just was not very smart. And the reason that I was so successful, or I should say, I don't want to say successful when it came to selling weed, I didn't care to be the biggest. I didn't care to make the most money. I just dealt with 2 or 3 people that I knew were good people, didn't have to worry about. Like, I just kept a really low profile. So that's why I was able to do it for so long without getting in any trouble. But they were watching him. They followed me. I guess I almost lost him without even knowing one time, because the cop's like, we almost lost you. Because basically I dropped, 5 pounds off at his house, and then I was going to drop off some more at somebody else's house up here before I went home to Tucson. And I'm going to this dude's apartment, leave his house, going to this apartment, and I'm up on the top floor walking to his apartment, and I hear like stomping footsteps behind me, and I'm like, thought I was going to get jacked. So I turned around, and it was the cops. And my girlfriend at the time sitting in a car, she didn't even see him, pulled up like right behind her, and she's reading a book. And I'm like, fuck, she's got kids. And so immediately when they took me down there, I'm like, she knows nothing about it. It's in the trunk. She's not involved. That's exactly what I told him. So basically they detained us. That's an interesting experience too. I'm sure they basically asked her questions, asked me questions. Somehow our stories somewhat aligned. And through my dad's experiences with what he dealt with getting arrested, he was going to write a book called The Grace of the Bird Dog. So basically he got arrested when he was going to New York one time, and they wanted him to cooperate. And so he's like, yeah, he basically pretended like he was going to cooperate. He said the guy that was on this end for Tucson was living at our house. So he basically said, I don't want my son involved. I'll help you, but I don't want my son involved at all. He's 15 years old, whatever. So when they let him call the house without being recorded to talk to me, well, the guy that was on this end answered the phone. And he basically said, he was pretending like he was talking to me. So the guy picked up on it right away, and he told the New York guys, don't meet him. Something happened. Something went down. So he worked the system somehow, pretending like he was going to help. So I had this in the back of my mind, and when they didn't care about me. They wanted me to snitch on somebody bigger than me, right? So they basically start throwing that out there. Hey, we don't care about you. We want to find somebody bigger. And I'm thinking to myself, who do I know anyone that I could do that to? And even people I don't like, I'm like, there's no fucking way I could do that.
Yeah, you're not in Tucson.
No, just
came at you.
Just in general, it's just like, but it goes through your mind, and anyone tells you it doesn't, they're fucking full of shit. So I basically started asking questions. I'm like, so what do you need? I said, I know a lot of people. I just started playing the game. Like, they're playing the game. Fuck, I'm going to play the game back. I'm like, I know a lot of people. I'm like, how much time do I got? And again, I don't remember exactly how the conversation went. I'm basically came to the conclusion. I'm like, so you're going to let me go today, and then I just got to get back to you. And they're like, yeah. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do it. And I come home and I hire an attorney. The attorney's like, well, they're either cut off all communication with them, and they're either going to drop the charges or they're going to file them. Because I didn't remember them reading me my rights. I didn't know if they did everything legal. I'm like, who knows? So basically I just stopped communicating with them.
But were they trying to communicate with you? Where they kept calling, emailing, showing up at your house?
They didn't do any of that. Luckily, they didn't go to my house because I had a bunch of cash there and drugs there that they didn't, they actually didn't go there.
Yeah.
So, and I was driving my ex-girlfriend's car at the time. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this because she doesn't know this. Because she had California plates and her trunk was all fucked up. She did ask me like something about it, but I just played it off. She still doesn't know to this day, but if she listens to this, I guess she will. And they didn't take her car either. So basically come home, cut off all communication. And then I started receiving, and I briefly touched on this, I think maybe before, started receiving certified letters in the mail. And I'm like, fuck, what is this? So look into it, and it's a warrant for my arrest because I didn't show up to court. So hire an attorney, come up here to court, fucking nightmare. Basically, they let me off easy because I'd never been arrested in my life. I was 32 or 33 years old at this point. And the judge is basically, he's said, because you've never been arrested, I'm going to go easy on you. Gave me 30 days in jail, 3 years probation. And And I think my charges were, it's a class 2 felony with intent to distribute, marijuana possession. There's probably 4 or 5 charges there. And basically, I keep saying basically, but I went to jail for 30 days. Luckily, again, I got approved for the work furlough program.
So you played the system.
So yeah, and so Tent City, which sucked, I was in jail. But from the first minute I was there, I'm like, I don't belong here. I'm not coming back to this shithole. Fuck this. I don't belong here. So the whole time I was there, I'm like, I got to figure out something else. I can't keep doing this. Because I always knew in the back of my mind, I got one strike.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I can get caught once, and I'll probably get off pretty easy. And if I get caught again, it's when you start doing it multiple times that they throw the book at you, and you're fucked.
Get you, yeah.
So did that, got out of jail, early in the morning. Anyone that's been to Tent City, it's like a
the average person hasn't. So why don't you just describe that experience?
So, and I don't even think they have them anymore because it was.
I think Arizona is the only place that had Tent City.
Yeah,
from Sheriff Joe.
Man,
I mean, basically to.
I'll go over it. April, so it's starting to get cold. During the day, it's nice. It's around this time right now, actually.
Yep.
You live under a tent on bunks with like 50 other people per tent, right? And it's like a POW camp because the girls are right next door. They have loudspeakers outside that they like talk shit through all the time. They come check on you. They do a bed count in the middle of the night. So you never really get good sleep because they're coming to wake you up. You got to get down and check everything like 2 a.m. They probably do it 3 times. They make you get up 3 hours before you need, like if you're going to leave for work, you got to go check in 3 hours early. So they make it just absolutely miserable. And I get it. I totally get it, but it's almost inhumane, really.
I think that was the whole thing, though. How can it be inhumane if, the people in the army and military are sleeping in tents and they're fighting for the country? Why can't criminals?
Well,
that was like the philosophy behind like Tent City.
True, but it's a little bit different because they're probably eating better food. I mean, the food is just, it's unedible.
You don't like green bologna?
It's terrible, bro. It was terrible. It's called emu meat. They don't even give you bologna. It's emu meat. Like it was terrible because I barely ate anything. I didn't know. I saw motherfuckers scarfing down food. And I'm like, I don't know how the fuck you're eating that. I was spoiled or something.
No schlop bags.
So I did that, got out, thank God. Luckily, my experience wasn't that bad because I got to leave every day, and I hustled my way into a fake job. So they thought I was working, but I really wasn't. I was going to the gym twice a day, and I mean, I'd go to movies and go to the mall. And so my experience that way wasn't that bad. I just had to go back there and stay there for the weekend. And then I got out and did 3 years probation. And as I mentioned before, I met my probation officer, and I'm like, I'm not going to be any trouble for you. I actually started my business while I was on probation and kept updating her, and then got off probation early. And that's really when I started the business. Is I needed to do something else, and I didn't know what to do, really. And I thought of a couple different. I almost did an installation business for granite because I knew somebody that did granite installation. I would have went and learned with them. I almost did the carpet cleaning business, which luckily didn't work out. And then I had the idea for Reshoevn8r one night. So I was cleaning some shoes to sell on eBay, and my girlfriend was sleeping. Unfortunately for her, she was addicted to painkillers. So that's a whole nother conversation, but came up with this idea that after I'd been putting shoes in a pillowcase for years and years and years, I'm like, man, there's got to be an easier way to do this, and just started working on it. I remember waking her up and I got an idea for a business. That's how excited I was. And I knew that there was an opportunity there just because it worked so well and nobody else was doing it. And this is early.
At this point, didn't they have something for lingerie? Like, isn't there like laundry bags?
Yeah,
for
there's laundry
kind of?
bags. No one was doing it with sneakers.
Shoes,
though.
yeah.
Yeah, with shoes. So really just started doing the research. And again, I'm not even a high school. I got my GED, but I'm not the smartest motherfucker, right?
Yeah,
I just saw a vision and I started working on it and I just became obsessed. I really had I'm like, I have to do this. Like, I got no fucking other option at this point. So started working on it and, you know, it really started coming together. And then when I first got the first kit and I gave it to some people, they're like, wow, this is actually better than I thought it was going to be. Like, just the presentation and the brand look and feel of it. And I have one of the original kits in my office. But I did everything. I mean, we're talking, I named it. I ordered the products. I
Stitch the logos, right?
I heat pressed the logos. The one thing that I didn't do was sew the bags.
Okay.
I paid somebody to do that, but I threaded all the bags, cord locked the bags, did the brushes, packaged everything. Like, really just did everything to get it to a certain point. And then I'm like, oh, build a website and people will go buy it. Well, that doesn't happen. So
You got to market it.
yeah, well, fuck, I didn't know.
For
I
sure,
just
yeah,
figured
yeah.
out, put a website up and people will go buy it. That doesn't work that way. So really started figuring out, well, fuck, how do we drive traffic to the website? And this is about the time that I thought of Rob, because I used to sell Rob weed. And I know he was really into sneakers and I needed some help. You know what I mean? I was a little older at that point than really the people involved in the sneaker industry. I mean, I was in my early 30s, but that was a young man's game back then. So really we started working on stuff. And once we got on Instagram, like I was doing some Facebook stuff and had done a YouTube video, terrible YouTube videos. I mean, I think it's still on YouTube till this day. Once we got on Instagram is when we really started seeing some traction. And really just kept grinding. And, you know, once we saw a little bit of success, we moved to Phoenix. And that's the story that, you know, Akil was sharing, is we all lived in a house and really grew it from there. And here we are today.
But I do want to bring up just one thing. Obviously, starting a business, the biggest thing I'm getting about your story is just really having drive and work ethic. Even Akil, when he was on the podcast, he brought up about just your drive. If anyone else brought the idea to him, he probably wouldn't have, you know, been on board.
Taking the leap.
Yeah. Where do you like associate your drive from? Like, where does that stem from?
That's a good question. I think that, you know, my dad was a business owner. Even though I didn't hang out with him, I knew that he owned a business. I don't know how, he was never really very successful. My mom was always trying to start a business. She was always trying to do, and again, it's interesting how it's all about timing too, because my mom was trying to do like a business where she connects people like like dating apps today, but she was trying to do it through the newspaper and get information from people and then match them together. And I started selling candy when I was in junior high. Like, that was my kind of hustle in junior high.
Yeah.
My mom used to get me cases in Now and Laters, and I'd go slang them at school and make money.
I was there too, man.
Yeah, so I did that, and I think I've always been entrepreneurial. I mean, I'm the type of guy, I'll come work for you, and then I'll be like, I could do it better. You know what I mean? And now that I'm a business owner, I understand why other people have a problem, because only one person can call the shots. Like,
Yeah.
you can't have multiple people call the shots.
Too many Chiefs and not enough Indians.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, it just what I'm trying to create, and it's interesting because that company I went to today, they have a really interesting philosophy that I'm going to actually steal from them. He's going to send me some information on how to do it, but it's about like problem solving for one. They call it a 1-3, a 1-2-3, or a 3-2-1, 3-2-1. I don't know. But basically, say you have a problem, and what you need to do is come up with 3 solutions 3 options and then which one you pick. So I guess it's a 1-3-2. And really empowering people to basically solve problems on their own and just owning their decisions.
So what if you come up with 3 answers to that problem, but they're just not the right one?
Well, there's always a certain case. Yeah. Well, what he said is, does that solve the problem? So ask him, does that solve the problem?
A lot of people think they're solving problems, but really they're just putting Band-Aids on things.
And that's what would come of it. So he's talking about like their employee benefit package. So they're trying to retain employees, and one of the solutions was improve their employee benefits package, so they're covering 90% of whatever. And he said, is that going to solve our problem? Well, maybe, but probably not.
Yeah.
You know, it may help, but it's not. I don't think it's a solution for retention. So but it will help. So it's just empowering your team, so I don't have to make all the decisions, right? Just own the decision. Yeah. Just own it. If it's not right, at least you made the decision and you acted on it. So again, there's a lot to learn, you know.
Every day you can learn something new, that's for sure.
Yeah. So really, I mean, that's kind of my life story in a nutshell, and that's why I wanted to call this podcast Defy the Odds, because there were points in my life when I felt like I didn't have any options, right? But if you really want something, you're going to do what it takes to make it happen. And even in the gym, I was thinking about it today. I'm on the damn stair stepper, and I'm like, how bad do you want it, Steve? How bad do you want it? Like, I know you want to quit right now, but how bad do you want it? Are you going to keep pushing through? And just telling yourself that really will help get you through situations where you just want to quit. Because really, you know, if you want it that bad, you're going to do whatever the fuck it takes to do it.
Yeah, 100%.
So it annoys me when people say, I want to do this, I want to do that, but they're not really willing to do what it takes to get there. Like, if you really want it, then you need to prove that. So I think that's one of the reasons that I was able to be successful, along with, again, I'm pretty self-aware. So I don't think that I'm the shit, or I don't think that I'm the smartest guy in the world. I don't think that I'm the best leader. Like, I know that I have a lot of room for growth, still to this day. And, you know, it's been a learning curve, man. It's been a learning curve. It's just, how bad do you want it?
For sure, man. Well, I appreciate you just sharing your story, just getting a little deeper. Obviously, you know, every podcast, you're just getting deeper and deeper. But just with your story, what would you say the overarching silver lining is?
Just never give up, right? Like, if you have a dream, work towards that dream. And even if that end goal isn't where you land, I guarantee you other opportunities are going to open.
Do you think going to jail and being on probation, that was the driving force to starting your own business,
100 blessing,
making money?
100 blessing in disguise. It's probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. I was thinking about getting my pilot's license, and, you know, I'm fucking flying to California so I didn't have to drive, and, like, yeah. Yeah,
he on some narco shit.
Yeah, I mean, so honestly, it's probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Yeah, and that is finding the silver lining, like you said. Like, when you have a felony, as I do, your options get drastically reduced.
For sure, yeah.
So either you go sell cars or start your own business, or you go back to jail, or, you know, if you like money and you like nice things and you want to support yourself and your family, and, you know, if you have expensive taste, I don't know, man.
I mean, obviously the felony was a huge setback, but just looking at you, you're covered in tattoos. Do you think that ever was a setback as well? Like, if you wanted to get a job, they would have looked at you crazy because of your tattoos?
Well, I mean, I'm 46. I started getting tattoos when I was like 24, probably. So, I mean, over 20 years. Back then, yes.
Yeah, it was looked at
totally different. Everyone has tattoos now.
That's what I'm saying. Like, when you were, like, growing up, that was that.
Well, honestly, when I started really getting tattoos heavy, I knew that I would never have a real job. I just knew that there's no way I'm going to go work and have a real job. Now I don't think it would even be an issue, just because lots of people, really successful business people, have tattoos. They just wear long sleeve shirts, and it's not as frowned upon.
For sure,
you know, it's not like it used to be. I used to go into places and people look at me like I was.
It looked at you like you were selling 500 pounds of weed.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, they looked at me like I was a crazy bastard. Yeah.
Sure.
So, you know, yeah, I would say that's the silver lining, and really just I try to do that. Any situation that could potentially be negative, you know, I try to find the good. How can I find the good in this situation, right? Like, how can I flip the script, take these cards that I've been dealt, and do something good with it? Because what else are you gonna do, man?
For sure, 100%.
So anyone who's out there listening that feels like their back's up against a wall, or they were dealt the wrong cards, that doesn't define you, right? Like you can do whatever you want if you set your mind to it, and you can't let that negative mind take over and say, oh, because of this, I can't do this. That's you got to get that thinking out of your mind and think, I can do this. I've always thought, man, if I really set my mind to something, I think I could do anything, really. If I really wanted it and I were to set my mind to it, I feel like I could do almost anything.
For sure, yeah. Except fly.
Yeah. Except what?
Fly.
Shit, I'll fly too.
You're going to go back and get that pilot's license.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
So,
hey, well, we have been talking for quite some time. Again, I appreciate you sharing your story. Is there any last minute things you want to talk about or discuss before we bounce?
Let's do intentions for this week, man.
Oh, we got to bring it back. All right, well, you're still not drinking. You're
still
stacking
not
that
drinking.
intention.
I'm waiting. Actually, I'm going to drink next.
Next weekend is the 29th.
Yeah, it's next. I told myself till I go to Rocky Point.
Oh, you did say that.
Yeah, so I leave for Rocky Point on the 27th. And again, I'm probably not going to drink much just because I do feel pretty good, and I don't.
You gotta have a tequila or two.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know,
a little margarita on the rocks.
It'll be fun. I mean, we're going with good people, and it'll be a good time. But let's set some new intentions. I finished the book, and that's the comment that I made to you the other day is. And I thought about this while I was watching some boxing training thing. I'm like, do you want to be a schoolyard brawler?
Oh, yeah, you told me that.
Or do you want to be a prize fighter, man? Because if you want to be a prize fighter, and I'm just talking about in life, right? You need to put in the goddamn work. And if you're not willing to put in the work, it is never going to happen because someone's going to outwork you. And regardless of the talent, how smart you are, hard work will prevail, I would say 9 out of 10 times, because there's always going to be somebody that's willing to work harder than you. And if you really want it, I love that. Like, do you want to be a prize fighter or?
Did you get that from Shane?
No, I didn't get it from. I just thought of it myself because I was watching something. The Gervonta Davis fight, I think it happened, right?
No, this Saturday.
It's this
Gervonta
Saturday.
Davis versus King Ryan Garcia. Who you got? Just off the topic.
I honestly don't know, man. I haven't. To be honest with you, I haven't watched either one of them fight before. I used to be a boxing fan, but I'm more into UFC now. I don't know. I think it could be. It's in the air.
I'm gonna go for Garcia. Just saying.
Why?
I don't know. He's part of the raza. I just think
God. Are you
gonna
Mexican?
do it for the culture? I'm Puerto Rican and white.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just think he's gonna do it. If you see a little press conference, Gervonta Davis shot throw a little jab.
He's fast.
Yeah, he's quick. Yeah, he looked nice.
But that's where I was watching something about them training, watching some show, and I'm like, man, do you want to be a prize fighter or just some fucking barroom fucking brawler? Mm-hmm. And it translates to anything that you want to do. Like if you want to be good and be a pro, pros don't just become pros by not working hard. Like you got to put in the hours.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So again, if someone's out there and it's not happening fast enough, there is the process, right? And the process is the most fun. Now that it's a real business and I got shit, like I got my bill today for product. It's $350,000. I'm like, fuck, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
We don't have 350 grand in the bank account. So now I got to figure out, okay, I'm going to have to inject some money myself. I got to figure out, like, there's all these things that you got to deal with now that it's like, what am I going to do? So, it's not the journey of the growth is much more fun while it's happening than when you kind of achieve some form of success, because then it becomes real and it becomes stress and becomes.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, back to that intentions, because we got little off track. What's going to be your intention this week?
Well, obviously I'm going to continue my workout journey.
Yep.
Been in the gym almost every
Tomorrow?
day. Tomorrow, yeah, I didn't hit today. So yeah, I was in Monday, Tuesday. Didn't hit today, but I'm gonna go today or tomorrow, maybe even Friday, four times in 1 week.
Okay.
It's pretty good. But I think to really hit my fitness journey, what I'm trying to do, it's the gut. I'm trying to get rid of the gut. So
Guys,
I think this week
eat better.
I gotta eat better, and I'm gonna meal prep. So I'm gonna go
Okay.
grocery shopping, and I'm gonna meal prep.
Okay.
So that's essentially leading more into next week, because but I think I'm just gonna be more mindful as to what I eat. When I go to lunch, average lunch, say it's $10 to $13. There's some sittings that I drop a 20 piece.
Of course.
Just because I can.
Yeah, because you think you need all that food.
Yeah, because it looks good and it
And
sounds good.
yeah.
And I know, I don't need that much food. You know what I'm saying?
No.
I might not need to go back for seconds just because it's there. And so I think that's what I'm just going to be more mindful as to what I'm eating and how I'm eating it. And then really, again, just going into this weekend, I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to buy the little bins. I might make my girlfriend meal prep. But we going to meal prep. We going to get it in. And that's going to be my big intention going into next week.
Okay, so one of the things that we should communicate or discuss in a future podcast is impulse control. Because that is something, too, that, like, I'll come home from work and I have a 4-year-old daughter, so we have a bunch of snacks and shit.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she asked me the other night, was putting her down for bed, and she's like, "Daddy, how come you eat all my snacks?" I said, "Do you have a job? I paid for those snacks. Those are mine." But it's because I come home and I'm like hungry, and I'm like, I'll just have.
It's there. It's simple, fit,
But
fast.
that impulse control, that is really, if you can master impulse control, you can master a lot of things, because you don't make the decisions that set you back. Like spending money, if you can master that, like, oh no, I shouldn't spend that. Like, if you can,
I'm still working on that, man. That is something. Spending money is something that, like,
so impulse.
I really need to work on, because obviously I'm trying to buy a house. I need to save as much as I can. But they just dropped the Thunder 4's shock drop yesterday. I try to get them, and I own a pair. Do you think I really need a brand new pair? I don't need them.
Why would you?
But I want them.
I never buy shoes, bro, and I can afford to buy.
Yeah, I know, but again, it's just, I want them. They look nice, and a brand new pair. Just having a brand new pair of shoes.
So here's what worked for me. Looking at my bank account.
No, for sure. Yeah.
That looks nice.
Yeah.
too.
I literally just had this conversation with my friend. I was like, collecting shoes is nice, but looking at the bank account, collecting money, it's a lot nicer for sure. Like, but it's still, like, I see a hat. I'm like, man, I'm shooting a YouTube video this week. I think I need a new hat.
Yeah, that's impulse
I
control.
got 50 hats. Do you think I really need a new hat? No, but I just want to look nice, and I want it. But so yeah, that's something I definitely need to work on for sure.
So let's both work on impulse control this week and see if we can, before we make a bad decision, whether it's food, because I do the same thing and I'm trying to get in shape. It's boat season. I got a boat that I haven't taken out.
Coming.
I got a belly.
Summer's here.
Ever since the wedding, I put on like 10, 15 pounds. So impulse control is something that I've wanted to kind of just focus on myself, just to train my mind, to not just do things impulsively and really think, okay, no, that's not it. Because even after I do it, as much as I like the food or whatever, afterwards I'm like, God damn it, why did you
I can
do
just
that?
say, though, when I am buying something, let's say a hat, it's probably in my shopping cart 3 different times
Yeah.
before I finally say, fuck it, I'm going to do it. Why not?
You don't
So
need a hat.
I don't just put it in and buy it just because.
But you don't need a hat.
Trust me, like, it's been in my shopping cart at least 3 times. I got here's
And
a
I feel
discount code. Here's a discount
you were
code.
wearing a new pair of shoes yesterday too, weren't you?
You said what?
Were you wearing a new pair of shoes yesterday?
I think I was wearing the UNC 5s, but those were the businesses I was getting them dirty, so they weren't my shoes.
Okay, I'm like,
I was just getting them dirty for the cleaning
you walked
video.
by me, and I'm like, this motherfucker. I thought that for a second. I'm like, I wonder if those are ours. And then I'm like, this motherfucker bought a brand new pair of shoes that he's not saving for his house. So
hey, it's hard, especially I'm going to Japan. I was like, I did buy some new shoes out there, some Bapes. I was in Japan.
Yeah,
it's just
you didn't bring me anything back, bro. I told you.
You didn't. You said that they dropped something, and I was like, I don't know what they dropped. They just had a whole Bape store with a bunch of stuff.
Did he come back yet?
I don't think so. I think sometime this week he's gonna be heading back.
Have you talked to him since you left?
Yeah, messaged. So I did buy these like traditional Japanese masks, and again, I went back to the shop 3 times.
How much were they?
So one was $175, but it was badass. Badass.
Okay.
And I wanted to buy it. I literally went to the shop 3 times debating.
I mean,
do I want that one? Do I want that one? Do I want that one? So I ended up getting ones like smaller ones, but still pretty good quality. But they were like $25.
That's cool. That's
so
smart.
I was like, I could get 2 for $50, or this one badass one for $100.
Should have got the badass one.
That's what I told him. Yeah. I took the picture and I was like, I'm gonna be at my house and I'm gonna be mad at myself that I didn't.
So did you tell him to pick it up for you?
No, but what I did do, I told him to get me another one, another smaller, because that was another thing. I had 3 masks, one that I didn't like as much, but the 2 I liked. And I was like, I took the picture and I was like, I'm going to sit on this. So then I hit him up. I was like, we were talking. I said, hey, go back and buy me that. Because I put them on my wall and I was like, oh, they're smaller than, I should have got the bigger one.
Yeah.
So they're smaller than I thought. Then I was thinking, like, if I had that other one down here, it would just create the ensemble.
I mean, I think that's okay. It's a souvenir of your trip, and
it's gonna be wall art that I'm gonna have for years to come. From when I buy my house, I'm gonna have those masks, somewhere.
That's dope.
Decorated, and that was one of the things I really wanted. That, and then again, I didn't need no Bapes. I didn't need no Bape tees, but that impulse, and then plus it was just spending $320 for a pair of Bapes here, or spending $220. Literally saving $100 while I was in Japan. So impulsive, but I'm gonna work on that as well. Those are pretty much my intentions. We've been rambling on. Any last minute things you want to say before we bounce?
No, that's it. Again, appreciate you guys for watching.
Listening.
Watching, however you're consuming this content. And, if you like the content, share it. Again, we're not making any money on this. We're barely starting. We really don't even know what we're doing. We're just trying to figure it out and having a good time while we're doing it. Hopefully that's representative of, what you guys are picking up from listening or watching. But again, just share it if you feel like you like it and somebody might enjoy the podcast.
Or if you're on YouTube, drop a comment down below. Let us know.
There it is.
We out.
Peace.
Peace.